Okay, so we are going to be working with chapter 1.5, or section 1.5 really, which is working with the order of operations. And I think this is arguably one of the most important sections that we are going to be covering throughout the entire quarter, I think, because the order of operations is going to be relevant in this course, it's going to be relevant in your next course, and all of your future courses that you're going to be taking. The order of operations even goes so far as to be influential and something that we use regularly in calculus, differential equations, physics, all the fun, big name, math-heavy subjects, all of them use this order of operations as we're going through it. So good thing you guys are here today and listening to this, because this is extraordinarily important stuff. Okay. So essentially the order of operations is what we're going to be doing when we are being told to simplify or evaluate an expression. So if you're ever going through a problem and you're told somewhere in there you see the buzzword simplify or you see the buzzword evaluate in there, if you don't know what to do, or you're like, I don't know where I should start with this, stop. PEMDAS is going to be your step-by-step guide to go through and solve these things. So it's a really nice part about PEMDAS is it gives us an exact order of how we're going to go through and solve a problem. It makes it very, very sequential, very, very mechanical. I think it takes all of the guesswork out of how to go through and simplify a problem. Okay? Again, I like to think of it, and I try to put it in here, think of it as your step-by-step tier process for going through and simplifying or evaluating any expression that we're working with. So we generally write it out just as PEMDAS. I like to break it down into these different, I call them tiers, as it were, because that's essentially what we're going to be doing. We break them down into our parentheses. So this is our first thing that we're looking at. We look at parentheses, which includes just our parentheses, brackets, curly brackets, which are a little bit less common, but they do occasionally show up in these. And then last but not least, our absolute values. Again, they're a little less common, but they do show up all the same from time to time. So we are going to be treating the absolute value signs as if they were parentheses or brackets all the same. So first things first, we look at a problem and say, are there parentheses? I'm going to look at it and do anything inside of those. Whenever we do go inside a set of parentheses, we're going to restart PEMDAS all over again inside of that set of parentheses or brackets that we have there. Okay? So if we have a set of parentheses, we say, okay, I do everything inside of those, blah, blah, blah. I can't do anything else. I'm done in there. Great. Then we move on to our exponents. If I have any exponents, I'm going to evaluate those, identify the base, identify the exponent, multiply everything out, and we get our answer with just our exponents. Okay? Once we've done our exponents, then we move on to multiplication and division. A lot of people have the question of, well, okay, if I have both multiplication and division in a problem, which one do I work with first? And really, you can do them in either order. It's your call. If you want to be a bit more mechanical with it, a little less guessing, then default to the rule of thumb of going left to right. As you're reading the equation left to right, which comes first? Multiplication? Okay, do multiplication first. Does division come first? Okay, then do division first. So it's kind of a rule of thumb if you're looking for a more solid, less hand-wavy way of going through that. And then once we've done multiplication division, we move on to addition and subtraction. And again, just like our previous tier, you can do these in either order that you like. If you don't want to be guessing at it, then default to the rule of thumb of going left to right based on what the problem has written out for you. Okay? So my recommendation, there's a couple ways you can go through this to keep this organized for yourself, and I'll show you guys a couple methods with it. My recommendation is check off each of these tiers as you complete them. I'll show you guys a way you can go through and organize that for yourself. But the big thing that you want to do is make sure you are not moving on to the next tier in this until you have completed everything before it. And again, I like writing it vertically in that regard because I think it's really helpful to see it that way. That verticality with this and math problems go hand in hand very, very well. Okay. So we are going to work with a couple examples here. We do already have the answers, so cool. We know what we should be getting, but we're going to go through the actual process of using PEMDAS to simplify this thing down. So I'm going to use our first example that we have here. I'm going to jump us over to the whiteboard, and then we'll start working with this and following our order of operations as necessary. So let's jump over to the whiteboard. Okay. So we are starting off with, let me pull it up here on my other screen. I don't want to be tapping back and forth like crazy for you guys. All right, so we are starting with the expression 12 plus, let's see. And again, bear with me as the handwriting and getting used to writing with this this thing is slowly improving. We're working on it over time. Okay, so our starting expression that we had here, first example on the previous page. So again, my recommendation as you are going through this, write out for yourself somewhere off to the side PEMDAS so we can keep track of our progress as we're going through this. So off to the side over here, I'm just going to put PEMDAS. And again, I'd recommend you separate those out for yourself like we have there. Okay? So as we're going through this, okay, what's the first thing based on order of operations that we're working with? Well, we're working with our parentheses first. Okay. So as we had in our previous note or on the previous page, when we have parentheses, we go inside of our parentheses first, and we're going to restart PEMDAS all over again. So I'm going inside of my parentheses. I don't care about this 12 out front. I don't care about this exponent. I'm just looking inside the parentheses. And I'm going to restart PEMDAS all over again. But I'm only looking inside the parentheses that I have here. I'll actually reorganize this. We'll just do it like that. I think that looks a bit better. So looking inside it at the expression 3 plus 2 times 5. I don't have any other parentheses inside there, so don't need to worry about that. I do not have any exponents listed inside here, so I don't need to worry about that. I do have multiplication or division happening. I have 2 times 5 that's going on. So from this line of work to my next line of work, all I'm going to do is multiply 2 times 5. The 3 is going to stay there, the 12 is going to stay as it is, and the 2 is going to, the exponent is going to stay as it is. So my next line of work, I have 12 plus 3, or 12 times the quantity 3 plus 10, the second power. So all I did was inside the parentheses work with multiplication. Okay. Now I still have a set of parentheses written out here. So I'm still looking inside here for what I can do next. I do not have, when I'm looking inside here, I do not have any other sets of parentheses. I do not have any exponents. I do not have any multiplication or division, but I do have addition and subtraction going on. So now I can add these things together. So that is all I'm doing from my first step, or my second step to my third step now. Just adding those together and getting 13. Okay. So now I'm looking overall at my general equation. I'm saying I still have parentheses in here, but I cannot do anything inside this set of parentheses. If we just think of the number 13, can I do anything to simplify that at all? And it's just a number. There's no operations attached to it, so no, I can't. So overall, with the entire problem, my parentheses are done. And I'd recommend doing a little check mark for yourself. Say, okay, I'm done with parentheses. Now I can move on to exponents. And I do have an exponent. I have 13 being raised to the second power. So I'm just going to apply the exponent in that instance. So I have 13 squared. You're welcome to plug that into a calculator for yourself if you need to. I believe if memory serves me off the top of my head, my mental math is correct. It's going to give us 169. Okay. So now I've worked with my exponents in my equation that I have here, or the expression left over. I don't have any other exponents. Great, so let's get that checked off. Do I have any multiplication or division going on? No, so I'm done there. I just have addition subtraction. I have 12 plus 169. We can use our calculator to solve that if we need to. So just add those together and we're getting 181. I can't do anything else. And so I have my final answer of 181. And I'm done. Okay. So as we are going through this process, I think the big part that that trips people up is trying to go through and rush this all in 1 or 2 or 3 steps. And eventually you will be fast enough to be able to go through and do these at that sort of speed. But I would highly recommend, if you're starting off with this, if this is your first time seeing it, you're not comfortable with the process, do not rush yourself. Okay? If you were going through and doing that, it can be, there's a lot of room for error that shows up with doing that, and we don't want errors showing up at all, or at least to minimize those as best we can. So this is one way you can go through and work problems that are like this. I am going to show you guys, we're going to use the exact same problem, but a different method that you can use to organize this as you are going through and solving it. So I'm just going to erase this part off to the side. And we're going to use the exact same problem as the example, but again, just a different organizational method that you can use for yourself as you're going through this process. Now I'm going to write PEMDAS just off to the side down below here, just so we have this as a reference for ourselves. So I'm going to put alternative method. And on the homework, on the test, if you want to show your work either way, I do not care which of these methods you would like to use. It's your call. So this alternative method to go through and solve the same thing, it's just a different way of organizing your work as we're going through the process. So to start this thing off, you're going to set up a table for yourself. We're setting this up about like this. Put the original expression that you're starting with in the very top corner. Okay. Now we have these two columns showing up here. The left-hand side column is going to be where we're going to list what are we doing with PEMDAS. Am I doing parentheses? Am I doing multiplication, division? Am I doing addition, subtraction? And then the right-hand column is us actually doing the work itself. So we're differentiating and separating out for ourselves what are we going to do next in the left column, and then we're actually executing on that in the right-hand column. So essentially doing the same thing that we just did, we're just going to organize it a bit differently. So again, following PEMDAS, first thing that we have to do, parentheses. I have parentheses showing up in here. So I'm going to say, all right, I'm working with parentheses. Can I do anything inside those? Yes, I can work with multiplication. So inside the parentheses, I'm doing multiplication. Whoa, that looks terrible. Better M. Okay, a little bit better M. So from our first line of work down to our second line of work, all we're doing is going inside the parentheses and doing multiplication. You are doing nothing else in that process. Okay. Now from here, okay, what am I doing next? Well, I still have parentheses. What could I do next with that? Well, I don't have any other multiplication or division going on. I can add these things together. So again, I'm going inside the parentheses, and all I'm going to be doing is adding 3 and 10. Yeah, gotta make this A bit better. The OCD in me is kicking in. There we go. So now I'm looking, I still have parentheses, but I cannot do anything else inside those. So, okay, I can move on from parentheses. I can move on to exponents. Do I have an exponent? Yes. So I'm going to list that. All I'm working with is the exponent. And then just apply that. saying, okay, well, I've got my exponents done. Do I have any multiplication or division that's showing up? No. Okay, so I'm done there. Do I have any addition, subtraction showing up? Yes, I do. So I'm just going to list addition. And I'm going to add these things together. Get 181. I cannot do anything else. So I have a fully simplified problem right there. Okay. So again, as we're going through this and working on problems with these, if you are told to simplify and you're going to use PEMDAS, I do not care if you want to write it out using this method and listing PEMDAS off to the side for yourself or at the bottom, it's your call, or if you would like to use this table method to keep it organized for yourself as you're going through it. Either way works. It's your choice. Totally on board with whichever one works to help you guys keep your work organized. They will both get you to the exact same answer. Okay? So I'm going to clear what we have here. There's that clear option. I know it's down here. Or it's not going to show up. That's fine. We'll erase it all then. Okay, so I'm going to reference our second example that we have from our notes. Get this thing cleared out. So our second example that we have from the notes here, off this side, is having us work with the expression of quantity 1 plus 2 times 3 squared minus the quantity of 5 minus 3 to the third power. Okay. So again, we're just told to simplify. We're going to go through and use our PEMDAS, our order of operations, to make that happen. So again, me personally, I like writing PEMDAS off to the side for myself if you're not going to use the table method. So again, just writing oops. Writing that out for myself, just so I know where I'm at as I'm going through these things. Okay, so do I have parentheses? Well, I've got brackets showing up. In brackets, we count the exact same as if they were parentheses in this problem. Okay, so I'm going to work with our first set of parentheses. I'm going inside of those. I'm saying, okay, do I have, look at our first one we have here. Highlight this. So looking at our first set of parentheses, I don't have any parentheses inside that. I do not have any exponents inside that. I do have multiplication happening though. So I need to do multiplication first. So within that set of parentheses, I'm just multiplying 2 and 3 together, getting 6. Nothing else is changing in there. Now, if you want to start to condense your steps down, we can also look at this other set of parentheses and work with that at the exact same time. If you do not want to and you want to work the first set first and then work with the other set, you can do that also. I'm just doing this to try and condense our time down and get through a few other examples as necessary. So we're going to work with both of these at the same time. I'm looking inside this other set of parentheses and I'm saying, okay, well, I have no parentheses inside here. I have no exponents inside here. I have no multiplication or division in here. I do have addition, subtraction. So I'm just going to subtract these two numbers together. I'm going to get 2. Now, I still have sets of parentheses showing up in this problem. I do still have 1 plus 6 in the first set of parentheses, and I have 2 in the second set. So I still need to work with the parentheses here. And again, I have no other multiplication or division happening. I can add these two numbers together, getting 7. The other set of parentheses is just the number 2. I cannot simplify just the number 2, so it's just going to stay exactly as it is. We're going to leave that there. So looking overall with PEMDAS, I still have a couple sets of parentheses here. They're listed as brackets, but I cannot do anything inside them to simplify it down any further. So my parentheses are done. And now I can move on to the exponents. So I have 7 squared. It's going to give me 49. Minus, I have 2 squared. It's going to give me 4. Okay. So I don't have any exponents left over, so exponents are done. I don't have any multiplication or division, so done. And I have addition and subtraction. 49 minus 4 is going to give me 45. I don't have any other addition and subtraction, so I'm done there, and I have my final answer. It appears as though my lecture notes are incorrect because I'm being told we have 41 as the answer. What showed up? What was the error? Ah, here it is. I wrote that in wrong. So that's my mistake there. So let's go ahead and fix that really quick. So this really should be cubed. That should be cubed. Which means that should be an 8 and a 41. Okay, there we go. So small little errors like that can show up. If anything, there's an example of if you're going to try and rush the process or do too much at once, you might miss something along the way, and that will happen. So don't make my mistake. Take your time as you're going through those. Okay? Now I do want to go through the last example that I have listed on the other page because I think it's worth seeing because we have a fraction that shows up with this, and it's there's a couple subtle parts that show up with fractions that I think are worth noting as you go through this process. So erasing we have here for our main work. Probably could have left that, but oh well. Okay, so the third example from that other page, starting off with a fraction. So we have 4 squared plus 8. Let's get a better 8 in there. There we go. Divided by 24 minus 4 squared. We'll put PEMDAS off to the side here again. Ugh. Okay. There we go. So, starting off with this thing. So this is kind of a weird one. There's a couple ways, a couple options that we have to go through this. We do always want to be looking for our parentheses first and foremost as we're going through this process. But fractions are kind of weird in the sense of they do kind of have parentheses in here, but they're not explicitly written in the most clear of methods. I don't think, at least. So you have a couple options on starting problems like this. And my recommendation is to choose one of them and then move forward with that as necessary. And essentially what it means is we're going to start putting in parentheses. So we're going to rewrite this into one of two forms. So my recommendation is rewrite this thing into either this form here. So the numerator has parentheses and the denominator has parentheses, and then we can follow PEMDAS. Or you can rewrite it into kind of more explicitly written out, but 4 squared plus 8 divided by 24 minus 4 squared. Either of these two options work. Does not matter which way you would like to reorganize it for yourself, but I would highly recommend you do at least one of them, because this is not at face value inherently easy to see what do I start with PEMDAS. Okay? So for the sake of seeing and working with fractions, I'm going to work with it in our top form that we have here, just to see something different and see how our process works using this method. Okay? But again, nothing wrong with using this one if you prefer doing this for your own work. Okay? So using our fraction form, we've rewritten this thing into. Oops. There we go. Make it a little bit better. So we have that there. So again, we have our parentheses. We're just following PEMDAS at this point in time. So I have two sets of parentheses. I'm going to work with the numerator first, the top one. So I'm saying inside that set of parentheses that I have here, do I have any exponents? And I do. I've got 4 squared. So I'm going to work with that first because exponents come first. I'm getting 16 out of that. Then I'm going to work with my denominator because it also has a set of parentheses in it. Restarting PEMDAS inside that set of parentheses, I have an exponent showing up, so I have to work with that first. So we get that there. Now I'm looking at this and saying, okay, well, I still have sets of parentheses, but I'm done with all my exponents. I do not have any multiplication or division showing up. I do have addition, subtraction. Excuse me. So in the numerator, I have 16 plus 8 going on. So that's going to give me 24. In the denominator, inside that set of parentheses, I have subtraction going on, so I'm going to work with that. That's going to give me 8. And now looking inside our sets of parentheses themselves, I just have the number 24, and I just have the number 8. There's no way I can simplify just those numbers. So on my little checklist, I'm done with parentheses. I don't have any more exponents showing up, so I'm also done with exponents. Got a better check in there. Make sure we're checking that thing off correctly because it's a big deal. We're done with it. Multiplication or division, I have 24 being divided by 8. So I'm going to do that division, and that's going to give me 3. So I'm done with multiplication or division. I don't have any addition subtraction going on, so I'm done. The final answer of 3. Okay. And that's how we have our final answer there. Okay, so those were our first 3 examples that we had that we were going through with that. I'm going to go back to our lecture notes because there is one other thing I do want to touch base on with this and go through with you guys. It's working with our distributive property. Come on, scroll down. Okay. So our distributive property is something that does come up when we're working through and working on problems like this. So our main definition of the distributive property, we're going to let A, B, and C be any number. Positive, negative, 0, fraction, decimal, whatever. Any number. We have the scenario where we have A times B plus C, and it's going to give us equivalent of saying AB plus AC. And if we have A times the quantity B minus C, we're going to get a result of AB minus AC. A lot of people like to think of this and draw this in for themselves as, I'll use blue here for this, darker blue. And like showing this with going A distributing through like that, or A distributing through like that. which is a nice way of keeping that organized for yourself, I think. It's pretty nice. Now, I do want to make the disclaimer and give you guys the warning about this right here. The distributive property works specifically when I have something multiplying by two things that are adding together or subtracting together. Okay? In this instance, the two things inside are multiplying together, which means this A is not going to distribute through and become AB times AC. This is a very, very, very common mistake that shows up, and a lot of people do this. So the distributive property, and this works only when I have something multiplied by two things adding or subtracting together. If you're using it in any other scenario where we have things multiplying or dividing, you are using it incorrectly. So make a note of this for yourself if you're going through the work and you're thinking, well, I should probably distribute this. Not in this scenario. Okay? So we have a couple examples we're going to go through here, and I just want to show you guys the two ways that you can go through and solve these, because there are two ways that you can do this. Oops, leave that there. So we'll use our first example that we have here. So let's say we are going to go through and solve our first one. Oops, I'll use black. We're told to simplify this thing. And now the thought would be, okay, well, I can use PEMDAS, I can use the order of operations to go through and solve this thing. And you're 100% correct that we can. So let's go through and use the familiar method that we have. I'm looking inside the parentheses first and doing addition. I can't do anything else inside the parentheses. I can't do anything with exponents. I have multiplication going on. So I'm going to be getting 33 as the final answer there, which is the exact same as what we have listed up here, which is good. Now, the alternative method that you have, now that we have the distributive property, I'm going to start with the same thing, is what if instead of directly following PEMDAS, we use our distributive property to do this? So I'm going to do 3 times 5 and 3 times 6. Again, using our distributive property that we just went through at the top. So 3 times 5 is going to give me 15. 3 times 6 is going to give me 18. Now from here, I've got 15 plus 18. I can add those together, again, using our order of operations, and I'm getting 33. So we've got the same answer either way. It's your call on whichever method you would like to use. Both will work. And we're going to take a look at this other one for the sake of seeing it written out both ways. So I have, minus 4. So again, following PEMDAS, the one that we did at the beginning, working inside the parentheses. 13 minus 4 is going to give me 9. I have 6 times 9. It's going to give me 54. And then our other method, using the distributive property, which we just went through. Again, rewriting the same thing. Ugh. And if I use the distributive property now, so I'm distributing 6 to 13 and 6 to 4. 6 times 13, that's going to give me, I believe it's 78. Applying a calculator here off screen. And yes, it's going to give us 78. And then 6 times 4 is going to give us 24. And then I have 78 minus 24. That's giving me 54 also. Got the same answer both ways. Okay. So now that we have the distributive property at our disposal as well, we've got another tool that we can use as we are going through and solving these problems. Okay. So I'm going to clear all these out we have here. And again, just want to give the overview for you guys as you're going through these. Do not rush this process. This is your step-by-step guide for going through in simplifying or evaluating any and all expressions that we see throughout the quarter and everything moving forward. So if you see simplify, you see evaluate, anywhere in a problem, that's your buzzword for I'm probably going to use PEMDAS. That's your first thought that should go to your mind. Okay? It's a very, very, very important section, very, very important set of material that you guys absolutely will be using throughout the entire rest of this quarter and a lot of your future classes with that. Okay? So this is everything for the lecture notes for today. The last piece I do want to give as a reminder for everyone, whether you're here now or you're watching this later on, if you have not registered yourself with our WAMAP course, you absolutely need to get in and start doing that today. Because if you haven't done that, you're behind. And if you need any assistance with doing that and making that happen, there is a guide that should be listed on the front page of our Canvas site. And if that's still not working for you, then get in touch with me and send me an email, and we can go through and set up a time to discuss that otherwise. But otherwise, if you are already in WAMAP and good to go, then you're set. Keep working on the material. And yeah, that is our lecture notes for 1.5 for today. And yeah, I'll stop the recording and we'll take any questions from there.